Please join me in praying that I don't say something we all regret.
If you want to start us off with the Supreme Court and national labor relations, and just kind of everything that's kind of going on with that, and how people can leverage their power as not just an individual, but if you're a part of a collective, an organization, what are some things
Oh, yeah.
people actually could do that could help
Yeah.
leverage this into the hands of the workers as it should. So
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, these companies, Amazon, Tesla,
yeah.
Trader Joe's being the big, names. And I know you did your homework in terms of like the, details of this. And I've heard a lot, obviously, but I'm not as sort of like, versed in every little bit of it. But yeah, all I know is essentially that those companies are being sued by the National Labor Relations Board, which is the NLRB. Good for folks to kind of be aware of that, because that's the governing body that protects, quote unquote, our labor rights and our rights to unionize and organize. And so, good to have in your back pocket to be aware of. And anyway, so these companies are being sued by that board, labor board, for union busting, right? For aggressively misleading, right? It's the opposite of this show, right? Aggressively spreading misinformation, lies about unions, lies about
Yep.
organizing and all of that, to make it seem dangerous and wrong and whatnot. And so anyway, so they're being sued for that because they spend literally tens of millions of dollars every year, each of those, companies, on these fucking union busting law firms, basically folks that just come into your workplace and do these captive audience meetings, lie and manipulate, and basically, they're being sued by the National Labor Relations Board. And their response, right, Musk and Bezos and all these folks, their response is to sue or to bring a legal case to the Supreme Court to try to get the National Labor Relations Board abolished. So basically, workers would have no right to unionize or organize at all, and union busting would have no even like pretense of criminality or just bad behavior, quote unquote. So there would be virtually nothing legally, at least, that workers would be able to default to or turn to. And so it's fucking terrifying right now in this age of like ratcheting up capitalism, racial capitalism. Of course, I say, like, you have your terms. I always say racial capitalism because we know that it hits folks of color the hardest. It's not the same in the way that it operates, but anyway, so it's just like we're constantly, right, struggling to, like we've talked about a good bit and even began our kind of collaboration on, right, we're trying to like keep a roof over our head, to be able to afford housing, to afford food, and our wages are stagnating, or in many cases going down based on inflation and or greedflation. And so it's like the worst possible time to have this happen, and the most important moment for us to really rally behind Trader Joe's United, for one, all the different Amazon workers and organizing entities, and the Tesla worker solidarity. We can probably put it in the show notes or whatever, but like that's the Instagram page, at least, that's most active that I've seen in terms of them pushing against Musk. So it's just like, that's a little bit of kind of what I've been hearing about it. Obviously, there was the viral video on TikTok that we shared and we'll be playing, but yeah, it's just fucking crazy that these companies think that they are entitled to completely abolish any kind of labor protections. And I like what folks have been bringing up in the comments on that video, which is like the unions were a fucking compromise, right? The unions were so that we don't, as workers, go and fucking burn down, the headquarters of these companies or whatever the fuck. I'm not suggesting that we would, but theoretically and historically that has happened, and that was, what unions were supposed to ameliorate or whatever, right? So yeah, it's just fucking crazy, the entitlement, to take that word back too, of these fucking billionaires to think that they can just completely destroy our right to organize and demand better conditions, better pay.
And my understanding of all this is just, it is a continued push towards fascism, towards aligning workers into believing that they don't have rights, and that the rights that they think that we are rightfully deserved are not deserved because they do not suit that we have to work more hours in order for you to do that. I also look at the fact of, when I was looking into this, unions, people like Teamsters. I've questioned Teamsters for a very long time because I understand how they operate. I believe it was the United Auto Workers president meeting with Trump, if I'm not mistaken, or I believe it was
No, that's the Teamsters.
the Teamsters president
Sean O'Brien.
meeting with
They
Trump.
both have Sean.
You know, that to me was sketchy, but I also have my own personal understandings of what Teamsters does and how they operate. There are racists within Teamsters. Teamsters has closeted racists, has closeted homophobes, has closeted anti-union, which means we have been infiltrated by Teamsters, and Teamsters berating this idea that it is okay to ask for more money simply because they're giving us again, we are asking for a piece of the pie when we should be asking for the fucking pie. We should not be asking for anything else other than that.
Amen.
And I think that's what scares the living shit out of people like Elon Musk, not Elon
That's
Musk,
right.
Elon Musk, because he's a musty son of a bitch.
Oh yeah, Pelon, apartheid,
You
Clyde.
know, Jeff Bezos, these individuals, his wife. We can even now we can. It's not just Jeff Bezos; it's Jeff Bezos and his ex-wife, because she owns half of Amazon.
Wow.
And you know, we have to factor in all of these things. Is Teamsters really something that we are, an organization, a union that we should be trusting right now?
Right. Well, and that really gets at, no, but that really gets at the rank and file kind of conversation, right? Because unions themselves, like we've talked about this before, but like unions themselves are prone to the same problems that the companies that they're supposed to be fighting are in terms of corruption.
Because they're not addressing the primary contradiction, which is U.S. imperialism, Western imperialism,
exactly,
and racial capitalism.
And the only way to really begin that process, fundamentally, right, is to get rank and file, which are regular workers, involved more, to get them more empowered, to get them in the decision making, because there are fucking hierarchies where one worker does not have one vote, where, you know, your steward or your higher ups in the union are making decisions for you, just like in every aspect of imperialism and capitalism, right? Every kind of business, every kind of enterprise. And so that's why rank and file, or reform caucuses, as they're known in union sort of lingo, are so fucking important. Teamsters Mobilize, in this case, is imperative. You know, there's LGBT caucuses. There's all kinds of, you know, groups within that company, or that, you know, not company, but I don't take that back, because it operates like a fucking company. You're absolutely right.
As a company,
but that's a fucking problem, and it's important for us to parse, you know, particularly here, because we can't let the companies fucking run away with, you know, the point and say like, oh well, unions are corrupt, so fuck that, you know, you should just be grateful that Daddy Bezos gave you anything or whatever, you know, like, it's like, no, fuck that, and fuck the corrupt union, you know, leadership, the folks at the top that are not, you know, standing with the workers, that are not, even like UAW is a great point in terms of imperialism, right? They're talking about, oh, ceasefire, right? And they're standing up, oh, we want to, but it's like a lot of those locals are actually involved in weapons manufacturing. So it's like, what's the concrete plan for how we're going to shut down, you know, why don't we mobilize?
Does not just mean weapons. That also means the cars, the trucks, the tanks. These are all automated vehicles.
Amen. Caterpillar is one of the biggest sort of players.
They're literally fighting to keep making some of the things that are oppressing people from abroad. Which it's such an ass backwards understanding of unionization, because the things that we are the things that we are fighting for right now are the same things that in essence are destroying our ecosystem. They're destroying people's lives. They are creating they're creating huge fucking gaps between classes of individuals when it comes to wages. And again, we're not addressing the primary contradiction that this is a settler colonial system. So any type of unionization is not rooted with the one thing, primary thing being that we are on indigenous lands. And how do we formulate not a plan for us, but how do we formulate our mind into thinking what is their plan for the lands that we occupy? So again, I'm going to try every time that we have these conversations about unionization, Teamsters, labor relations, housing rights, all of that. I want the primary contradiction to be, what is this system? A settler, colonial, imperialist occupation. That's the
right.
system that it is.
Yeah.
Please join me in praying that I don't say something we all regret. These are dangerous times. Mr. President, are you sure about this? It's not a coincidence that in the scriptures poverty is mentioned more than 2,100 times.
Look in my eyes, what do you see?
These issues are as alive as they ever were.
Neon lights, Nobel Prize, when a mirror speaks, the reflection lies.
This is not about charity, it's about justice. Justice and equality are mates, aren't they? Justice always wants to hang out with equality, and equality is a real pain in the ass.
I'm the smiling face of the old TV.
I changed the channel.
Oh, there's a law of compensation, and there's an accounting to be held, an accounting that shall make the depression of 1929 seem as a prosperity when it breaks upon you.
Only you can set you free. The cult of personality.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.